Don't answer the door at 9 p.m. on Halloween night. It was Halloween evening, and my folks took my little bro to a school party. I stayed back because I'm a junior in high school and had been swamped with essays and exams all day. I wasn't up for watching little kids get spooked by folks in rubber masks and foam skeletons. Once they heated out, I crashed on the sofa and began channel surfing for some horror flicks. I came across a horror movie directed by George A. Romero. I left a big bowl of candy on the front steps and dove into the movie. But honestly, I couldn't focus. I was too concerned about my family being out. Halloween was never really my jam. Even the candy didn't do it for me. Not even when I was a kid. Especially with all the mysterious vanishings happening around town. 5 teens and an entire family disappeared the night before Halloween. 2 weeks later, the cops found what was left of one of the missing teens. He was headless and gutted. The authorities think it might have been a wild animal, maybe a bear or a wolf, that wandered down from the hills and got to him on his way home. The other teens and the family are still missing, and the family's relatives have pretty much accepted that they're not coming back. As I was lost in thought, the old grandfather clock my dad cherished chimed 9. I didn't think much of it until it hit me that my family should have been back by now, and my mind started racing with worst-case scenarios. I bolted from the couch to grab my cell, but just as I got to it, there was a knock at the front door. The kids shouldn't have been out this late, so who was pounding on the door? If it was mom or dad, they had keys. It had to be some kids heading home. As I dialed the first few numbers, a louder knock echoed. I kept dialing, but the knocking grew more frantic. I hit call, and the chilling silence on the other end made my heart drop. There was no signal. As I pulled the phone from my ear, I realized the knocking had ceased. I glanced at the door and was paralyzed. A single, eerie, white glass eye was peering at me through the mail slot. The moment our eyes locked, the slot slammed shut, sending a resounding clang throughout the house. I then heard footsteps receding from the door, but the heavy feeling of being watched lingered. Just when I thought it was over, the lights in the house went out. I dropped to a crouch, trying to stay silent. In the pitch-black silence, moments felt like an eternity. Finally, mustering some courage, I shakily rose to my feet and called out, "Who's there?" As my voice trailed off, a cacophony of footsteps, pounding, thuds, and even scratching echoed from the other side of the door. Whatever was out there was hell-bent on getting to me. I recoiled as a chilling shriek, a mix between a bat's cry and a deer's call, pierced the air. No human could produce such a haunting noise. The door started to buckle under the creature's relentless assault. Panic set in, and before I could even think of a plan, the door was blown off its hinges, crashing onto the floor with a resounding thud. I bolted to the kitchen to grab something for defense, snatched a knife from the counter, and spun around to see what had busted through the front door. But there was nothing, just the remnants of a shattered door. What really sent chills down my spine wasn't the absence of an intruder, but the void beyond the door. No lights, no neighboring houses, no streets, just a dense fog swallowing up my home. Then there was a scratching noise right above me, claws ripping through the drywall of the ceiling. Before I had a chance to look up, a creature dropped down in front of me. It wasn't human. Its skin was peeling off its bones. Its arms were so long they reached the ground, and the terrible stench of roadkill filled the air. As I fought the urge to throw up, I realized it wasn't gazing at me, but rather at the new scratch marks on the ceiling, grinning with genuine delight. Then it let out a sound that still chills my bones. It was a whimpering noise, somewhat animal-like, but not quite. I attempted to back away, but the floorboards groaned beneath me. The creature snapped its head in my direction, catching me so off guard that I stumbled and fell back. As I hit the ground, the sound went silent, and I raised my head. I could now see its face. The skull was wrapped in decaying flesh with prominent dark veins. The view and stench made me hurl, and the creature let out a laugh, kind of like a hyena's, seemingly amused by my reaction. The moment I finished retching, I dashed for the stairs. But just as I took the first step, the beastly creature smacked me with its thin, decayed hand. I was sent flying to the opposite side of the kitchen, pretty sure my arm was broken. I glanced to my right and spotted a knife. As the creature inched closer, I snatched the knife with my good hand. I aimed the blade at the creature, bracing myself for a final confrontation. With eyes shut tight, I mentally prepared for the worst, taking what I thought might be my last breaths. I then heard the creature take a deep sniff. Whatever scent it caught made it drool. Suddenly, its attention shifted to the cabinet. It lunged at it with wild agility, tearing the cabinet door off in one swift motion. Cereal boxes and snacks tumbled everywhere. To my surprise, the creature grabbed an old bag of candy that had been ignored for ages and began heading towards the shattered front entrance. Before making its exit, the creature paused, eyeing the pool of vomit on the floor. It curiously poked at it, then scooped up a piece of chocolate from the mess. Examining it, the creature muttered in a deep, eerie voice, "Bad candy," before bolting out the door and vanishing into the mist. Moments after its departure, the entire house trembled. I peeked out the window and noticed the fog had lifted. My legs finally buckled, and I crumpled to the ground, struggling to stay conscious. The sound of breaking glass pierced the air. It was my neighbor, who had recently lost his wife. His desperate cries and pleas filled the room, followed by chilling sounds of a struggle and heart-wrenching screams. Overwhelmed, I blacked out. I was jolted awake by my dad's voice. "Are you all right?" My vision was blurry, but I could see the tears in his eyes and the outlines of my mom and brother, both visibly upset. I later found myself in a hospital bed, wrapped in bandages and with a cast on, haunted by the memory of my neighbor's final moments. The cops began questioning my family, and we all settled on the idea that it was a failed break-in. I went along with the robbery story because I figured no one would believe the truth. Life seemed to get back to normal, but I was plagued by recurring nightmares. When I finally opened up about that night, they brushed it off, saying I'd been watching too many horror flicks. A couple of weeks after, they discovered my neighbor's remains. It bore a chilling resemblance to the previously found teen's body, but bizarrely, where there should have been organs, there was corn. About a month later, a new family moved into his place. I can only hope they don't face the same terror I did that Halloween night. I wish I could have done something for him.